जल्दी ना करो। अरे टेंशन ना लो। वेट 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 वेट, फ्लो में है हम सेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो, प्लीज वेट। कभी दौड़ेंगे, कभी रुक जाएंगे, कभी ढूंढेंगे, कभी खो जाएंगे। कभी रूठेंगे, कभी खिल जाएंगे, कभी लड़ पड़ेंगे, कभी जुड़ जाएंगे, कभी उलझेंगे, कभी सुलझाएंगे, कभी हारेंगे, कभी जीत जाएंगे। यही है बचपन का रन रेट। क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। हमें रहने दो, पूरा पीने दो, खोलो बचपन के सब गेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो प्लीज वेट, क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो प्लीज वेट, क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। पापा मम्मी दादा दादी नाना नानी भैया दीदी कजन्स कॉलोनी टॉमी रानी गर्मी ठंडी खेल कहानी सपने अपने पेड़ पहाड़ खाना गाना लेटर्स नंबर्स। दुनिया हमारी फुल प्लेट। क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। यही ठीक है, यही सीख है, बचपन ही मेरी स्लेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो प्लीज वेट, क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो प्लीज वेट, क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट। थोड़ा चिल कर लो प्लीज वेट, क्योंकि बचपन इज ग्रेट।
अगर तुम्हें डिस्टर्ब होता असेल तर दरवाजा
Good evening, everyone. Bachpan Manao celebrates the first 8 years of life as a time of joyful learning, play, and growth, while also creating space for important conversations that help us reimagine what childhood can and should be. This year, Bachpan Manao is focusing on Bachpan is Great, actions to celebrate childhood through 8 wonders: play, social bonding, all round skills, education, creativity, stories, nature, and quiet time. Today's Bachpan Manao masterclass on small actions, big change, behavior change through month-long campaigns echoes the ethos of Bachpan is Great by highlighting how mothers are already in the best position to not just educate their children, but also play and build their all-round skills. Campaigns with their messages only encourage more of this. Today, we're learning with Rocket Learning and 3 of their team members. Rocket Learning aims to transform India's 1.4 million Anganwadis into joyful learning hubs, helping millions of 0 to 6-year-old children get school ready. They equip Anganwadi Didis and parents with bite-sized, localized learning content, digital tools, and behavior change nudges. The masterclass will be led by Tabrizul Haq, who is the lead on media and behavior change, Sangeeta Bahuguna, who is an ECCE expert with over 40 years of experience in kids content, and Sumedha Ghosh, who works at the founder's office on data and analytics on campaigns. I'll now hand it over to Tabriz and the rest of the team.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone had a good time today already. This masterclass will run through the slides and we'll talk about one of our campaigns. I will quickly now present my screen. Hope my screen is now visible to all of you. Is it?
Yes, Tabriz.
Super. So let me yeah, today we'll tap upon one of our campaigns that we do, but overall, this is all about Bachpan Manao Masterclass and what goes behind designing a campaign. So this is me, the first person here. Hi, I'll say hello. I'm Tabriz. I am part of the BCC team and I closely work with both Sangeeta and Sumedha, who will now introduce themselves.
Hi team, thank you for joining. So I'm Sumedha. I work at the founder's office, like Varun mentioned, and I primarily look at the data and analytics for all our behavior change campaigns.
Thank you, Sumetha. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this afternoon. I'm Sangeeta Bahuguna, and my background is in kids television. I'm here as a consultant with Tabriz. I work very closely with both him and Sumetha in designing campaigns and mapping their efficacy.
Thank you so much, Sumedha and Sangeeta. So I'll quickly set the agenda. What we will do today is we'll quickly run through our initial videos. The first slide will have two videos wherein you can see the previous version and the current version. The idea is to spot the difference. We'll go through introduction of the campaign, how we target our groups, explain through one of the campaigns, that is Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai, what goes behind designing a campaign. We'll also talk about data and what happens right at the end. I'll play one at a time. I hope the audio is clear. If not, please drop a message in the chat box.
मिट्टू मिट्टू चुलबुली और चिंटू खूब जमकर खेलना पसंद करते हैं, इसीलिए मम्मी भी बच्चों को खेल खेल में नई बातें सिखाने के तरीके खोजती हैं। तभी व्हाट्सएप होमवर्क ग्रुप पे एक्टिविटी वीडियोस देखते हुए एक वीडियो उनको भाया, जिसमें हल्की भारी चीजों के बारे में बच्चों को कैसे सिखाना है ये था बताया।
बच्चों चलो आओ एक मजेदार एक्टिविटी करते हैं।
मम्मी ने एक बकेट में पानी लिया और एक लकड़ी का टुकड़ा, एक चौक, एक पेंसिल और एक लोहे का टुकड़ा लिया।
तो क्या लगता है बच्चों, अगर ये लकड़ी का टुकड़ा मैं पानी में डालूं तो ये तैरेगा या डूब जाएगा?
बच्चों ने मिले जुले जवाब दिए। फिर जब मम्मी ने लकड़ी के टुकड़े को पानी में डाला तो वो तैरने लगा। तैर रहा है, तैर रहा है। फिर मम्मी ने चिंटू से पेंसिल को पानी में डालने को कहा। फिर से दोनों ने अनुमान लगाया और फिर मम्मी ने चुलबुली और चिंटू से और ऐसी छोटी छोटी चीजें ढूंढकर लाने को कहा। बच्चे दौड़ कर गए और जल्दी वहाँ पत्तों, कंकड़, पत्थरों, कागज का ढेर लग गया। इनमें से हर एक सामान बाल्टी में डालकर देखा गया कि कौन सा डूब रहा है और कौन सा तैर रहा है। वाह मम्मी, मैं समझ गई कि चौड़ी और हल्की चीजें तैरती हैं और भारी भारी चीजें डूब जाती हैं।
चलो बच्चों, अब इस पानी को वेस्ट नहीं होने देते हैं, इसे हम पेड़ों में डाल देते हैं।
मिट्टू मिट्टू, हर मौका बन सकता है सीखने का मौका। चुलबुली के मम्मी पापा को ये समझ आया। मैं तो कहता हूँ अपने बच्चों के साथ ये एक्टिविटी करके हमें व्हाट्सएप पर वीडियो या फोटो जरूर भेजना, अगर ये तरीका आपको भी पसंद आया।
I will now play the second version, that is V2.
आम खरीद लाया, अब इनको धोता हूँ।
1 मिनट, क्यों ना इस मौके को सिखाने का मौका बनाए?
बच्चों थोड़ी मदद करोगे?
हम तो खेलने जा रहे हैं।
ये भी खेल जैसा ही है।
ठीक है, बताइए।
चिंटू, बताओ किस टोकरी में ज्यादा आम है?
1 2 3 4। 1 2, इसमें ज्यादा आम है। चुलबुली, अब तुम बताओ, इन दोनों टोकरियों में से हल्की कौन सी है?
दोनों टोकरियां एक जैसी है, पर इसमें आम ज्यादा है। उफ, ये भारी है। इसमें आम कम है, ये आसानी से उठ रही है क्योंकि ये हल्की है।
बिल्कुल सही खेला तुम दोनों ने। चुलबुली के माता पिता ने एक साधारण मौके को मजे से सिखाने का मौका बना दिया। आप भी घर पर सिखाइए, रोज मजे से सीखेंगे बच्चे खुशी से।
So Can anyone spot the difference between the two videos and let us know here? Varun, we
Lots
can
of
also take open questions if they want to unmute and say something.
So the art was definitely different. That's something I noticed.
Anything on the messaging?
Yes, the Braze. I think everybody is discussing how the
on
first
the
video was more of an instruction, the second was a demonstration. The second activity is also a little bit simpler and more accessible than the first activity.
Super. So yeah, I think rightly identified. So apart from the animation difference, we of course have enhanced our characters. They now look more dynamic and fluid. The animation is more fluid. We have worked on the edits as well. Other than that, the more important aspect is we have concentrated our messaging rather than having multiple points. We have one single point to explain what the messaging is about. Over here, I think it's a clear demonstration in the second video that, okay, you have elements, maybe you could go out, buy vegetables or buy fruits. You can use that to just introduce them to what the concept of halka bhari. The same thing can also be used in other way. Let's say you can teach them how to count, basic counting, like they had in one of the baskets, they had 4 mangoes and the other had 3. So these are the small elements that we are tapping into, trying to fine tune our messaging, and of course, upgrading our content each day. But any questions from anyone?
I think the comments that have come in, Tabriz, I'm just jumping in, that the second approach is definitely less pedantic and more doable, less instructional. So yes, that really answers to what we were trying to do in the content upgrade.
Right. And just one more
Yes.
point.
Let me check.
Just adding one more point, what we did was the duration is also confined. The first video is slightly longer in terms of duration. Now we are capping our content under 90 seconds so that we value not only the content but also the viewer's time.
Dipti also made an astute observation of how the first video only had the mother and kids, whereas the second had both parents.
Yes.
Yes, that also depends on the campaign messaging or who we have in frame. But of course, now we are trying to include both the parents so that it's taken not only as mother's duty, but it's an entire family's responsibility. And like the popular saying goes, right, it takes an entire village to raise a child. So it's not only the mother's responsibility, it's for everyone. So I'll quickly move on to the next slide.
Yes, thanks, Tabriz. So, in a nutshell, at Rocket Learning, we want to champion India's pre-existing 14 lakh Anganwadis and champion them as India's de facto public preschools. I think all of you are aware that Anganwadi centers are typically seen more as nutrition centers for children, but we think that this is a great place for early childhood education to be delivered. So, how we help achieve that mission is to make sure Anganwadi workers and parents received very bite-sized, localized learning content through WhatsApp and other similar platforms, right? So through our WhatsApp-based delivery model, we send periodic behavior change nudges to essentially move the parent as well as other caregivers behaviors into a more encouraging, inclusive direction. So, in today's session, we will basically break down how we do this. We will elaborate on the kind of design principles we work on and embed in our campaigns and how they even originate in the first place, right? Because for any behavior change campaign to start, we need to figure out that what is that core need, right, in our communities. So we'll start from the origin point, that like what are these field insights, and then we'll move on to how we actually assess it, how we design our campaign, and how that forms our feedback loop. Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sumedha. So, like Sumedha rightly pointed out, we do it for our audience. And for that, we use a lot of metrics that we follow, not only creating content. We'll talk about field visits and other things ahead in the slides ahead. But firstly, the idea is to keep the language very simple. During one of the field visits, this was sometime in November last year, I got a very important feedback from one of the parents saying that your language is not subtle. Saral means that it's thoda sa difficult to follow. It becomes a challenge. Why don't you look at your language and make it everyday conversational kind of day-to-day speaking words that we use? We got back to the drawing board. We looked at where the scripts were, and we simplified our language. That helped us communicate in a better way. Uh, so that's one part of it. The second important part is we localize. Not only do we create the content in Hindi, but we, as of now, do content in Marathi and Punjabi. Uh, and of course, these are done through visual metrics that you see. So, for example, for Punjab, the Anganwadi Didi will always wear a suit, right? Whereas maybe let's say if we do it for Odisha, you might find the Anganwadi Didi wearing a sari. That's one part of it. Translation is the other part. In translations, what we do is we have come up with a different approach. Translations cannot be literal. A lot of times, everything is lost if you do literal translation. We now follow a method of transcreation. Every translation product is also taken and considered as an original product so that we add that cultural nuance, the small little details. The third point is the setting of the video. So these were the first part, the scripting, how we localize them. Setting is very important. The background cannot, let's say, if I'm making a content for somewhere in UP, it should not look like Gurgaon, right? So we set that in a rural setup. The houses are very real Indian looking in the background. For example, if you see this image, banyan tree, that is there. You also see the letters, the alphabets there, A, E, right? We change that in different languages forever. Like for example, for Punjab, we'll use Gurumukhi, right? So those kind of settings are done. Not only that, it also comes with the attire of the character. Like we talked about Anganwadi Didi, not only the Anganwadi Didi, we also change the costume. Let's say if we have somebody from Punjab, right? We are distributing the content in Punjab. So it is very important that we represent the community there. So those things are followed. Other than that, you did point out that, okay, the mother and the father were there, part of the second V2 version. What we also do is community representation. So you will have a Sikh, you'll have somebody from the Muslim community, you'll have somebody from the Christian community, so that it's very inclusive and for all. And that's the thought that we carry forward. Education should be free, fair for all. Quickly move on to the next slide. So, like we did talk about everything. The first point is there has to be a demand for the content, right? And we are here to solve a problem. And the problem is ensuring that education and early childhood care and education is valued at the grassroots level. As part of this, what we do is when we distribute our content, we frequently do field visits. It's at least thrice a year. Baggy, please, Sangeeta, please correct me if I'm wrong. We do at least
That's
thrice
right,
a
three
year,
to four times.
3 to 4 times a year. We go out to the field with the content and test them out. So this was in March. We went out, we were roughly 12 people. We split our groups into three. Back then, we were distributing seven content weekly, seven content as in seven content pieces. The group of three was split. That way, we interacted with roughly over, I would say, slightly over 60 mothers. They liked the content. They had a lot of feedback around it. Of course, subtle language being one of them. But one thing that really struck us was, okay, there was a huge demand for more content. And in fact, I will paraphrase it. She said, मेरे पास टाइम रहता है आप और हमें होम लर्निंग वाले वीडियोस भेजो, right? So that lady had the time. She said, I want to teach my kid, we want to learn. And this was not only, so I'm just quoting one. There were multiple parents, all three of us that you see. I did a different center, Sangeeta did a different center, Sumedha did a different center on the very day. And when we came back to brainstorm things, we totally aligned on this. We went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, there's a huge demand. How can we do this? So instead of doing 7 video collaterals, we started doing 9 in a week. One up was the another home learning video, which is a shorter, crisper version, which is now sent out on Saturdays. Along with that, a worksheet which is tied. So yeah, Sangeeta, over to you.
Thank you, Tabriz. So in this part, I'm going to talk about the design principles we apply at the ideation stage, and then we see them through from script to screen, and why we do this. I'll also give you context to the conversations that we've had with parents that have led to these choices or these principles that we apply. And broadly speaking, if you embed design circles very early in the life cycle of your content and push them right through, you are likely to see an improvement in appeal, in the resonance, and also in the usability of your content, engagement or usability. So I'm going to talk about the first filter, which is quite separate from, I think Deepti noted, and I'll go back to Deepti's point in an earlier chat window, where she said that this seems to be, version 2 seems to be more gender inclusive. So that's right. Though gender, equitable behavior, or diversity and inclusion and different abilities may not be a core part of our messaging, may not be a part of the story or the episode or the campaign, somewhere in the background, we feed these messages between the lines. So, for example, if we have an establishing shot of children coming out of the Anganwadi, we will have a 15-second shot of our child character called Guddo, who uses a wheelchair, using a ramp and coming down by the ramp along with other children. So just things that we feed in, or a father doing household chores, or a mother taking time for herself, sipping tea or reading something, or at a bank, or changing the gas cylinder at home. These things to break stereotypes and also to subliminally make our content more inclusive and diverse. So this is one of the filters that no matter what the story is about, you will see these things happening in the final video. The next thing that comes, and okay, sorry, to give you context on why we do this, in a lot of our conversations with parents on the field, with mothers, what comes across very clearly is they are the primary caregivers, and fathers do not have the time or do not see themselves as caregivers. They don't place themselves in the caregiving role at all. So, though this is not one of the behaviors that we are intending to change in a particular campaign, we just push this messaging through. The second thing again came from the second filter that we apply, again arose out of conversations on the field, and just little things that mothers said that हाँ वो कार्टून आप भेजते हैं संडे को, बच्चा देखने आ जाता है, ये भी देखता है, उसको बहुत मजा आता है जब वो मिट्ठू मामा आता है. So that led us to the question that can we, though our content is very clearly parent facing, we are talking about parental behavior change, but we said, what if we could widen the appeal of our videos, and what if they could resonate in some part with children? Because co-viewing is a very powerful tool for changing random viewing into almost appointment viewing. And a lot of content creators before us have done this very successfully. Sesame Street is one example. Their content is built in such a way that while it is meant for kids, parents watch it with equal enthusiasm. So here is another filter that we applied. And here, what we did here is we upped our character gallery of fantasy and fun characters. So animal characters who can, bring in the crash bang moments, who can bring in the humor, who can bring in the physical humor that really appeals to kids. And even while there is the real world messaging for parents, the quirks and the humor that these fantasy characters bring in, they also add another layer of viewership for us and appeal. That is the second filter. Now I'm going to talk about the third principle that we apply very consciously, is again, I'll give you the context first. In our last field visit in Maharashtra, where Tabrez has already talked about that, where mothers talked about give us more home learning activities. We heard lots of interesting snippets of conversation कि मैडम मेरे पास बॉटल के ढक्कन नहीं थे तो मैंने पत्थर यूज कर लिया वही एक्टिविटी करने को, या मेरे पास राजमा के सीड्स नहीं थे मैंने बटन यूज कर लिया. So this kind of concretized our decision that if there is something that we are sending out that we want the audience to replicate at home, to do with their children, it should be instantly doable. So our ingredient list is really small in our home learning activities, and not just small, it is also very adaptable. That if you don't have pebbles, you can use shells. If you don't have this material, you can do that. And just materials that are easily found, that are at hand in every home. So this is our way to remove the barrier between, remove the barriers to action and, engagement. There's another practice that we have based on this principle. We've put another practice. And so for example, if it is about pre-literacy, and it's about vocabulary building, and we want the parent to take a photograph or a picture and talk to the child about it, we have now started providing that in our video so that the parent can actually use that visual, pause the video there, and do the vocabulary building exercise or the social emotional learning exercise right there. This is what we call reduce the lag. And I think these three principles, we just apply them consistently. They're part of a bigger checklist, but these are the key things that we do.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining this beautifully, Sangeeta. We'll now watch one of the home learning videos. This includes a father. We have a sick father and a girl together doing this at home.
त्योहारों का महीना.
नमस्ते माता पिता. आज मैं सायशा के साथ एक मजेदार मिलते जुलते शब्दों वाला खेल खेलूंगा. सायशा की आंगनवाड़ी टीचर ने मुझे बताया कि ऐसे खेलों से बच्चे शब्द के अंदर जो अलग अलग आवाजें होती हैं उन्हें समझने लगते हैं, जो आगे जाके रीडिंग में उनकी मदद करते हैं. आप भी अपने बच्चों के साथ ऐसे खेल खेलने की जरूर कोशिश करना. सायशा, आज हम मिलते जुलते शब्दों वाला खेल खेलेंगे. मिलते जुलते शब्द कैसे होते हैं? जैसे नानी, पानी, केला, ठेला, बंदर, अंदर. तो चलो शुरू करते हैं. ये क्या है?
फल.
और फल के साथ मिलती जुलती आवाज वाली कोई चीज इस पन्ने पर कौन सी है? वेरी गुड. और ये क्या है? वेरी गुड. और घड़ी के साथ मिलते जुलती आवाज वाली इस पन्ने पर कोई चीज बताओ.
घड़ी.
वेरी गुड. अब ये क्या है? चाय. और चाय की आवाज से मिलती जुलती कोई चीज बताओ. Very good.
So this is one example. Of course, now what we have done is we have added CNC edit a little, you'll see the same worksheet that was used as a thumbnail image, and it'll come as a CTA right at the end. This is also slightly different because we shot with a father and a daughter. We are consciously making those decisions. It is not only the mother's responsibility, it's co-parenting. And like I said, it does take a village to raise a child. So yeah, this is in response to that. So we'll now talk about one campaign that we do. So overall, what we do is in the whole year, we have 12-month-long campaigns distributed for each month. For example, we also have Tyoharon Ka Mahina, something in October. We name it Tyoharon Ka Mahina, and we teach learning through festive moods, festive cohorts, and the disciplines around it. This one is for Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai. The idea is to instill confidence in the mothers, and like how Sangeeta had explained that कि confidence कम होता है हमारे mothers के अंदर, they are not very confident, so the idea is to overcome that. Getting back to the first point, so here we have 3 points again. We are getting back to the field visit. Field visits are very important. It's good to understand what's happening within the community, what are the demands. So during our field visit for this campaign, we found out that in spite of the mothers being the primary caregivers in their home, they struggle to participate in the child's education. This came not only because of lack of confidence, but availability of smartphones, which of course is getting better in India. A lot of times you see the father is away from home and there's no access to smartphones. So we thought about it and we made a few changes. We got the campaign to do and say and imbibe those thoughts. What we did was we designed a campaign. We understood that we built a campaign around the small nudges, starting with father, encouraging their mothers, then showing them about how you can do it. It is not that you cannot do it. You already know. That's the thing that we believe in. You already know. You just need to come out of your nutshell and get this done. For point number 3, Sumedha, if you could just come in and how we do the tracking and the importance of data. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sabriz. So of course, like while we start our behavior campaigns with like an idea and build like a whole campaign and a lot of collateral around it, we also want to make sure that like our campaigns are very targeted and they actually reflect the data that we observe in the field. So within each campaign, we also have a very robust monitoring mechanism where we essentially try to map the parents' behavioral, like, so we conduct surveys and polls, and through these surveys and polls, the qualitative responses that parents give are mapped to a very simple scoring logic, right? So at the end of each month, we have a set of metrics which gives us the qualitative impact of each campaign. So we'll discuss the poll structure like a couple of slides later, but the idea is to make sure that whatever intervention and whatever campaign we plan is very, very targeted, right?
I'll just come in with some closing things on this particular campaign. So in terms of behavior change, the 3 messages that we reinforced throughout the month were, one, you don't have to be highly educated to become a part of your kids' journey. Learning does not necessarily start in school. Learning starts at home, and there are a myriad play-based learning opportunities at home. They are a fun and effective way of teaching your child. And the third message that we sent out was around the community as an enabler. So if the mother who is lacking confidence because she's not educated, she doesn't know how to teach, if she is in any doubt, she can always reach out to the community, especially to the Anganwadi Didi.
Thank you, Sumedha and Sangeeta, for tying this. We'll now watch one of the video from our campaign, that is Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai, and we can all exchange our thoughts. Sorry, that's this.
मम्मी है सब जानती है। देखो चिंटू, पापा काम से लौट आए।
मुझे तुम सबको कुछ बताना है। मुझे काम से कुछ दिनों तक दूसरे शहर जाना होगा।
पापा, हमें आपकी बहुत याद आएगी।
और हमें पढ़ाई कौन कराएगा?
अरे मम्मी है ना, वो सब जानती हैं।
नहीं, मैं कैसे इन्हें पढ़ाऊंगी?
हम व्हाट्सएप होमवर्क ग्रुप से जुड़े हैं, उसकी मदद से खेल खेल में हो जाएगी पढ़ाई।
पर मुझे फोन चलाना नहीं आता, और फोन तो आप ले जाएंगे ना।
बच्चों की पढ़ाई में काम आएगा, इसलिए तुम मेरा फोन रखो और मैं तुम्हारा, और इसे चलाना भी सिखा दूं।
मम्मी जल्दी फोन चलाना सीखो ना, हमें आपके साथ पढ़ाई करनी है।
बच्चों का मुझ पर इतना भरोसा है तो उनके लिए मुझे जरूर कोशिश करनी होगी।
जब मम्मी करे खुद पर विश्वास, तब होगा बच्चों की शिक्षा का विकास।
So any thoughts on this, and how different is this campaign from the last one that we saw? Any thoughts, anyone? Yes, Varsha, please. Yeah.
I think so. This is more relatable at the ground level because many a times the mothers are handling this education part, the fathers are not available, phone is not available with the mothers, or many a times they even literally don't know how to operate because morning the husband takes the phone, he comes very late in the evening. So many times they tell us ki since the phone was not available with me, I couldn't do anything. But I think so. This is a very nice way to inform and to encourage them that for children you can like take this seriously and learn basic things from the phone. Also, you can study through activities.
Right. So rightly identified, Varsha. Thank you so much. So yeah, that was the thought, identifying from the field visit the gap, how we can solve it together. This was the first episode of the campaign. So sorry, I forgot to tell this earlier. So we have broken a campaign down into 4 weeks. Each campaign goes on Sundays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The week 1 is one video, which is followed by week 2, week 3, and week 4. So each campaign has 4 videos in them, which are linked together in terms of narrative style, and you can also watch them independently, but the story flows. But Sangeeta, would you like to add to this how we stitch them together?
Yeah, so actually Tabrez has said it. So we send 4 of these Chulbuli Universe videos over the month, on each Sunday of the month. The other 2 video components are also featuring this parrot who's our narrator, which is a teaser before the Chulbuli video goes out. There's a teaser video, and then there's a recap video at the end. And along with these 3 videos, there are, of course, 2 home learning activities that go out and a whole bunch of worksheets. And everything is packed together around the same theme. So whatever's happening, and each episode, like he says, works as a standalone story. And also you can see the progression of a 4-part series.
Right. Thank you. So
Thanks, Sabriz. So, like Sangeeta had mentioned, there are certain behaviors around which the campaign is designed, right? So, this campaign, for example, had some very strong narrative arcs, right? That you don't need to be very, very educated to be an engaged and efficient educator in your child's life. We also wanted to push and nudge mothers' confidence in their ability to even be educators for their children, right? So, how we assess whether or not our campaign was effective in moving these behaviors, right? Is by designing very simple polls. So, we have a pre post framework where we send the same question before and after the campaign, right? So, 2 pre-post questions in the course of this campaign. The first one was that, okay, if your child is, say, between 3 to 4 years, how educated should the parents be, right, to actually be able to educate their child? So, assessing like the responses to this particular question gives us some behavioral insight, right, into whether or not parents actually felt that there was an entry level barrier or an education barrier to actually teach their children. The second pre-post question is again, a very explicit question about the mother's confidence. We wanted to gauge whether or not she actually feels confident in even teaching her child. So once this same question is sent before and after the campaign, and of course, we take the common responders, right? Like the same set of responders who answered like prior and after the campaign, then we assess their weighted scores. So clearly from this, you can see that there is a significant positive directional movement in the average scores, which gives us so we can confidently posit that yes, okay, our campaign was successful in shifting these behaviors. Okay, the next slide, please, Fabrice.
Over here, do you want to talk about how
Yeah.
many responders we had in the first question and the second one, and
Yeah, yeah. So here, like you, of course, I mean, the overall responders would have been much larger, probably close to 30K. But the 13K common responders that you see are the parents who happened to respond both in the pre and the post, right? Because of course, you're going to assess the same set of parents when you're trying to figure out whether or not their behaviors changed over the course of that month. So yeah, and this, of course, is a very significant percentage of like our total parental database. So from this, you can like basically confirm that yes, okay, our campaign was successful.
Right.
Um,
I'll just add to this. So if you see on the right-hand side's bar graph, the movement is very clear. You see a 3% plus and score number 4. So we have a scoring mechanism, like Sumedha said, 1 being the lowest and 4 being the highest. So we saw a great number of improvement in the point number, the 3 scored and the 4 scored. So it went from 0 to 3 and 2 to 10%. So that's a great jump.
Of course, here like scores 1 and 2 just relate to like lower quality interactions. Like we would essentially want these parents to move out of buckets 1 and 2 and towards 3 and 4, which are higher quality behaviors. But the scoring logic is very subjective, right? And overall, what we want to see is that the total score, right, across all like 4 scores should move at the end of our campaign. Yeah. We also have like another type of question which is just sent once, unlike the pre-post question in the course of the campaign. So we also want, I mean, again, like Sangeeta mentioned, all our campaigns are based around one critical theme, right? So this Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai campaign is about we want to make mothers feel confident. And to make sure that theme is effectively conveyed, we send one question during that campaign to figure out whether the impact of that messaging has actually had any recall value, like whether it has been embedded in our parents' memory, right? So, yeah, I think, which is also, you can see very clearly that about 18,000, like across 18,000 parents, 10,000 actually did say that, yes, okay, like this campaign was narratively successful.
And just to add to this, these are weekend poll questions that you send on our WhatsApp groups, and the
Yeah.
data is captured only mostly during the weekends.
Yeah, so I mean, just from a high level, like the data basically confirm what we already knew, which was that yeah, our campaigns are receiving pretty high parental engagement. The pre-post metric showed very significant positive directional movement, which meant that our campaigns were effective in shifting behavior. It also confirmed that yes, the narrative theme of our campaign also was basically like parents were able to recall that theme, so it meant that our campaign was not very discursive, it was not very divergent, it had like a very strong consistent messaging across the month.
Right. So, and also taking you back to the first step, it all started with a thought and the field visit. So we do repeat this very often. Field visits are important, and for us, we take it as a scripture. We follow it. There's lots of learning during the field visit for all of us. So yeah, so what goes behind designing a campaign, right? So the first point is observe it. Like we have been talking so much about field visit. We go out to the field, go out, visit the Anganwadis, not only at one center, but at Rocket, what we do is BCC is one small drop in the ocean, right? There are multiple teams. We all go for field visits frequently, exchange our learnings with each other. So we interact with the communities very frequently and gain understand and discuss deep insights that we draw from there. And from there, we take out the key learnings that we have. Once we have those key learnings, we design a campaign around it. What we do is, let's say, for example, sticking to Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai again, we knew that the confidence level at the end of it was lower, and there was a high demand for home learning videos. What we did was we designed a campaign around it wherein we promote instilling confidence in mothers, also telling them, like Sangeeta had said, that you already know, you need not be school learning. Learning does not start in school, it starts at home. So those principles were taken in designing the campaign. That's the scripting part of it through the messaging. Also in designing the setup, where should this happen? Will this happen in an Anganwadi center? Will it happen in a park, or will it happen at home? So those campaigns, interaction are thought through. For example, this was the first episode that you saw. In the next episode that you have, you see them visiting an Anganwadi center because the mother has few questions, right? Okay, she's done this, but she's slightly confused. So you can always reach out to an Anganwadi Didi. So that's progression is always kept in mind while designing the campaigns, and it's thought through it. What we again do is after that, we measure, like Sumedha talked us about the poll data. Apart from our video collaterals that is shared, the poll data is very important. We measure the poll data monthly. We have a monthly leaderboard wherein we analyze and map the metrics that have changed. We also change the questions that are tied to the care index. So the care index is based on the domains that we have to tap upon for that quarter. For example, intelligence is malleable, confidence, right? Being few of them. We take that thought, we measure how the movement has been, and then we go back to the insights from the data, use those insights to sharpen our campaign. Maybe the next campaign around, we'll try and see, okay, these are the nudges. Our responders were only, let's say, a majority of the chunk were at around scoring 2, right? We of course want them to score 4, but the progress cannot happen overnight. We have to instill that thought, push our campaigns, and behavior change does not happen overnight. We slowly have to design our campaigns which can softly push the idea behind that. After incorporating the feedback, it does not stop. It's a cycle. We again have to go back to the field and understand, let's say, the changes we made, we designed, did it make any difference, and how can we do things better? So, yeah. Sumita, you want to talk about the tools that we have?
Yeah. So thanks, Sabris. So we have some tools and resources for you to take away as from this masterclass. The first is a simple design checklist. So before you create any campaign, there's a simple list of do's and don'ts that you should just check it through, just to make sure that the design is inclusive, there's nothing inappropriate. A lot of the time, what tends to happen is that because we are also socially conditioned, we might be like we might not be aware of our biases, right? And those biases kind of feed into and flow into our content, and we don't have any perspective on it. So to make sure that your content is still very, very inclusive, just run it by the simple design checklist. Rocket also writes very extensively on how we design our behavioral nudges and what are the results of those nudges. And of course, all of this is available in the public domain, but we have linked it explicitly here. As Tabriz mentioned, we are also linking the entire month's worth of campaign videos for Mummy Hai Sab Janti Hai, so please do have a look at it. There is a very, very clear narrative arc to it, right? So it's basically like a story. We see the mother and the children, as well as like the father, develop through this one particular month's videos. The fourth thing is slightly more technical. Like I mentioned that, we have a poll, we map behaviors to numbers, right? Which might not always be super intuitive. So we have an internal tool called a care tool, which is just a list of 40 something behavioral questions and how we relate these questions to numbers, right? So like how we score each answer to these questions. Please do take a look at it. I think it's a very helpful tool when you do want to devise some impact metrics around your campaigns. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sumedha. So yeah, we'll now take questions from the group if we have any questions, Varul. we'd like to address those.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask. If no one doesn't, well, I have one question. Okay. There is a question in the chat. Siddharth asks, your videos are very good and informative, and the theory of change is visible. With all the quality inputs, how do you gauge the behavioral change in the children covered? And what are some of the challenges to ensure the vision is implemented on the ground?
So I think I can take that, Varun. Thank you, Siddharth. Thanks for your question. That's a great question. Yes, you're right that the monthly poll and data collection that we do really targets parents' behaviors and assesses parental behavior, right? Because I mean, parents are largely the ones who are using the smartphones to educate their children. However, we do have an annual study that we do to assess the learning outcomes of children as a result of our programs. That is not strictly under the scope of the behavior change and content team. That is taken on by another team within Rocket, like monitoring and evaluation, who conduct a very thorough, very robust baseline and endline analysis throughout that entire year. Of course, 1 month's nudges might not have a huge improvement in learning outcomes, but if you really look at the program over the course of a year, you'll see that Rocket Learning's program like basically ensures up to 70% of children under that program becoming school ready by the age of 6. So just to set some context, in India, only about 40 to 50% of children are actually school ready by the age of 6. So Rocket Learning's intervention has very, you know, has a lot of evidence, right, in improving children's learning outcomes by the age of 6. So yes, the theory of change in children is not something that we observe on a monthly basis, but it's very apparent to us on an annualized basis. And yeah, what are some of the challenges to ensure the vision is implemented on the ground? I mean, a lot, right? Like, not even from a content perspective, um, like infrastructural constraints, right? Literacy constraints, something as simple as, Anganwadi workers not even really being recognized as educators within their communities, which means that a lot of their labor is just seen as free for all. So like their time tends to be kind of usurped for like election duties or admin duties, like by the government. And so what that essentially means that they have very little time in the day to actually dedicate it to teaching the kids in the classroom. But where we kind of come in to help for that is just to give them very simple, very simple ways to like organize their classroom, have a daily schedule, and just give them small bite-sized content on how they can become better educators in the classroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Warren, you had a question.
Yeah. So I saw that the video and the animation reflects a lot of the context. I'm just curious, with regards to the language, do you all incorporate, I mean, the dialect of the region or the vocabulary? How do you all work with language when it comes to content?
So I'll take that, Sangeeta, first, and then
Yeah, sure.
you can add. So we don't tap on dialect. We take a standard. For example, for Maharashtra, I'll take Maharashtra as an example. So the Marathi dialect is very different across the state and different in different districts. We have taken a standard. So the Marathi in Pune is more acceptable. We follow that dialect. We follow that process through our transcreation. Of course, it will be great to tap on different dialects, but right now it's very challenging given the tech and the understanding. We try and tie everything to a bucket, I'll say, drop everything there. But yes, we definitely would love to do that, but currently it's not possible. Yeah, with that, we do with the translations. Hindi language is a master language. When we are translating them, we did say that we follow the transcreation method, wherein the words are not translated, but more of a transcreation. The language, the credibility, the nuances are taken from the Marathi culture. Sangeeta, you want to add to this?
Similarly for Punjabi, but it's a very good question, Varun, because now we are going into states where sometimes the master language and the dialect are equally, equally powerful or equally important. So we will sooner or later have to face this. And so, for example, when we go into Orissa, there is a very strong dialect, and then there is Oriya. So this is something which is for immediate consideration in the next few months.
Right. So just to give you everyone an oversight, we plan to do that sometime in November. We are still trying to figure out how that can be done, which is why we don't have a concrete answer for that. It'll be a trial and error. We'll of course try it, use Hindi as a master, and then try and localize. But yeah, I think once we get there, we'll have better answer to this. Does that answer, Varun?
Yeah.
I think Anushka also has one more question, right? That
Yeah.
how do
We
we
could,
prioritize feedback when different groups within the same community ask for different things? And how do we decide that which feedback is most important and should actually change the campaign? I think I can chip in, and then of course, the Bree Sangeeta, please feel free to add. I mean, we have to also filter the feedback a little bit, right? Sometimes the feedback that we get can be very counterintuitive to the kind of change that we want to make. We've also heard situations on the ground where maybe, like one particular community wants certain elements of their community to be represented within the content, and of course we are not going to incorporate that. Like a simple thing that we don't want, like say mothers in our campaign videos to wear a bindi or like a gajra, right, which is representative of one kind of religious identity. So if there is an ask for that, we push back because that is counterintuitive to our design principles. But as long as we get certain feedback which we think makes our content feel more relatable, more human, and actually addresses a more underlying problem, I think that feedback is always going to improve our content, right? Otherwise, you always risk having a disconnect, like sitting inside like this room. If I never engage with the community, I can come up with my version of what looks like a great behavior change campaign. But if it doesn't at all resonate with your community, with like the people that you're actually wanting to serve, that's a bit pointless, right? So yeah, the brace,
Yeah.
Sangeeta.
So, like Sumedha rightly said, it's very important to filter the feedback that we receive. So, which is why each time when we come back from the field visit, we all come together, we brainstorm, we sit together, we look at the common elements, and then consciously we take that up, we discuss with other teams. So, it's not only the behavior change team, there are other teams within the system. We all co-discuss with all of them, and then after that, prioritize what can be done immediately. Of course, we cannot solve all the feedback, but we prioritize, okay, 1, 2, 3 is something that we can do immediately into our campaign. For example, the demand from going from 7 to 9 was fairly, I'll not say not challenging. It was challenging because we had to rewire ourselves for adding 2 more collaterals into the week. But we all mutually agreed upon that. We said, okay, if there's a demand, why not give it to them? And this was across, this was not only in Maharashtra, but when we did another visit elsewhere, we got the similar kind of feedback. No, because we have the time and we are happy to learn new things. So, of course, it's very important to filter the feedback.
Yes, one more thing I'd like to add to this, Anushka, is we also study, I mean, our surveys also include habits and practices and routines of communities, and we see a lot of similarity. And this is, state and region and geography agnostic. Uh, and that helps us with our transmission. When do we schedule our content? So, for example, one of the things that we've studied very closely is there is a better chance of the father being at home and the smartphone being available on a Sunday. And so our entire scheduling then revolves around that Sunday. We send out a teaser on Saturday, and most of our videos go out on the Sunday. So there are some similarities that we can, then base many of our decisions on.
Super. Thank you so much. I think we can end the masterclass with that. Thank you, Tabriz, Sangeeta, and Sumedha. It was a lovely, lovely masterclass. We will be sharing all of the tools and resources that they showed on screen through our post masterclass emailer, and it will also be up on our website. Once again, thank you for being lovely participants for this masterclass. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
मुल की हंसदी बुना से काठों मा होया कतगा रोते लोच मेरो गाँव मा होया माटू माटू आई ब्याखुनी पाख्यों मा होया माझी बाटू हिरनी चटिएगी डेरा मा
हंसते खेलते सीखने दो, बच्चे हैं, बचपन मनाने दो।